So good evening and welcome back to our Shir on Hilchos Shabbos. And we're focused on the laws of Shabbos as they relate to our kitchen. What we do in our kitchen, what we're not allowed to do, and so on and so forth. So one of the 39 categories of forbidden malacha is known as bemachik, which means to scrub, to smooth out. What they would do is to smooth out a piece of leather. They would get rid of the hair, and they would prepare it like to prepare leather. So one of the things they did was to smooth it out and to get rid of anything that was on top of it to be able to use it. So that is prohibited on the biblical level. Now, this also rolls over to the prohibition of smoothing out anything. There is a prohibition based on this to limroach, to smooth anything, to make anything smooth, a surface, to smooth out a surface. Which means, to give you an example, if you have wax, for example, you have wax and you smooth it out on the surface, to smooth out wax, wet, soft wax on the surface. This is an example of the prohibition minatera from the biblical, on the biblical level of smoothing out, or something that's very thick, a thick, like chalev. Chalev would be fats, so if you smooth it out, then it's more of like a congealed. It's something that has more of a thickness to it. So anything that you smooth out, for example, using soap, a bar of soap on Shabbos. What you're doing is you're wetting it. What you wet and you smooth, when you use it, you're taking off some of this, and you're smoothing out that soap from the thicker surface, from the bar of soap itself. So that is prohibited. But something that's very watery to begin with, like just regular canola oil, so that's not, there's nothing, you're not really smoothing out anything, because it's like water. It's not water, but it's a little more than that. It has a little bit more of a, but it's not the same texture as a thick piece of soap.
No, I'm saying the oil itself is the same texture. You're not changing it by smoothing it.
Right, that's exactly.
But are you allowed to use even...
Are you allowed to what?
Liquid soap, are you allowed to use on Shabbat?
Yeah. Liquid soap, you're allowed to. Mamash nozel, if it's completely... They make it like very mixed. They mix it there with a certain... It's better not to use liquid soap. It's better not to use it. So if you mix it with some water and you make it very soft, and you make it very
fine,
very watery, more watery than it is on its own, then it's not then it's okay. It's better to mix it with water.
But soap turns to...
is that what you do?
Liquid turns to salt.
Yeah. What?
But the liquid soap turns from like watery, and then it becomes soapy, becomes different texture. Aren't you changing it?
No, that's nothing. That's not what we're talking about. No.
But what if you have peanut butter, and you want to...
Smear it on bread. There's no problem.
No problem.
No. We'll see in a second. Any kind of cream ointments, right? Cream ointments that you smear on your body, for example, you're not allowed to do it on Shabbos. You're not allowed to do it you're not allowed to do it on a cloth either, to then start smearing it on your body. Either way, you're doing the act of smoothing it out, and that is prohibited. Where this is very common, the people that have small children with diapers. So a lot of time they put on a certain, like Desitin, they put on something that to use as a cream for the area of the baby, and this is not, so it's a problem. But to just put on a certain surface like this to dab it on, that's not a problem. If you're not smoothing, you're not smearing it up. Now, when it comes to food, there is an opinion that says that when it comes to food, the prohibition of smoothing out doesn't apply. But there is some such opinions, but we go by the opinion that we're more stringent in this. It says that you should be more stringent and not smooth out food as well. But not all food. Certain foods, there's no problem. And I'll give you a few examples right now. For example, if you're smoothing out something and icing on a cake to make it beautiful, for a better presentation, you smooth out icing on a cake. You're not supposed to do that on Shabbos. You shouldn't do that on Shabbos. Or for example, when you have egg salad, you have a big platter of egg salad, so you can just have the egg salad and put it out. But then some people like to do a presentation where it looks much nicer, where you smooth out you may round it out, and you smooth out the top, and you make it look more presentable. You shouldn't do that on Shabbos either. However, if you're smoothing something out, and the intention is not because you're looking for a smooth surface, that's not the purpose. For example, the example you said before, smearing butter on bread, or peanut butter, or jam, even though you're technically taking this and you're smoothing, you're smearing it out on the bread, you're not looking for any. That's not what the intention is. The intention is to have butter on your bread, not to have a smooth-looking surface. That's not what you're interested in. So in that case, there's no problem whatsoever. You're always allowed to smear tuna on bread, any of these kinds of miruach, any kind of smearing onto food. That's not a problem. All right. Not clear? Any questions? Now comes another subject. I did the area of opening up packages on Shabbos, which is a very complicated area of halacha because a lot of people if you don't know it, you're probably violating Shabbos when you do it. So let me lay out the basics for this, so that you can get if you have to understand when it would be permitted, when it would be prohibited. When it comes to opening packages, there are a number of prohibitions that are involved. I'll give you an example. One prohibition is tearing. When you rip open a bag or a box, you're really tearing on Shabbos. What you're doing is tearing. We know that one of the 39 categories of malacha is tearing. You're not allowed to tear on Shabbos. So it's very possible that you would be violating the malacha of tearing. Not tearing is a complicated malacha. Not every tearing is prohibited. So we have to know when tearing a box open or a bag open falls under the category of tearing and when it doesn't. And that's one example where you can be violating the law of tearing. Another law you could be violating when you open up boxes and bags on Shabbos is making an opening, creating an opening. Asiyat petach, to make an opening. That is also a problem on Shabbos. So that can fall into that can be part of the discussion to see if when you're doing it, you're opening up a new opening, which is very beneficial, or not. So that can also be a problem, and we'll of course lay out when it is and when it isn't. The third malacha that you could be running into a problem is the 39th malacha, which is makeh bapatish. Makeh bapatish means literally the final hammer blow. But what it means is to put finishing touches on something. So, for example, when you're opening up a bottle of Coke or a bottle of whatever, seltzer, whatever. So if you have the cap, that sometimes the caps, when you open it up, it leaves a little ring on the bottom, detaches it from the top, and now the top becomes functional. You can close it again, open it again. Till then, it wasn't really functional; it was just sealed the bottle. But now, when you do that, you break off the bottom part. It becomes a function. Now that was the final touch. You put the final touches on making this cap a functional tap. So that could also be a problem. And the last one is erasing letters. You know how many openings of bags and boxes where you have the problem where you're going to break into letters, and that can also be a problem. So let me tell you what is permitted and what is not, and how you avoid all these four prohibitions. You see, just one area of life touches so many different prohibitions of Shabbos. So let's talk about the first one, tearing, which is a malacha, which is a biblical prohibition in the Torah against tearing. When is tearing prohibited? So the biblical prohibition of tearing is if you're tearing for some benefit. You just take a piece of paper and you tear it in pieces just because there's no benefit involved. That's not a biblical prohibition. That is a rabbinic prohibition. From the rabbinic standpoint, you're not allowed to tear even if you're just tearing to destroy. Right? But because tearing to destroy is a prohibition that only the rabbis put on you, so they made one area of leniency, and that is to get food for Shabbos. If you need to tear, and you're tearing and destroying the bag or the box, there's not going to be you're going to get, the box will be, whatever you're tearing will be it won't be beneficial to the bag or to the box or whatever. Because if it is, then you're in the biblical prohibition. The rabbis have no right to be lenient on a biblical prohibition. They can be lenient on their own prohibition. So where it is not beneficial, right? So over there they say don't tear even for that, right? But they made one exemption. If you have to open up bags and things for the food for Shabbos, then you're allowed to tear if the result will be that the bag will be ruined or the box will be ruined and so on. At least if you can get the food out of it and you ruin the bag, you tore within and it ruined it, then they allow it. Okay? You get it? Is that clear?
So what about...
I'm going to give you examples of this, of course. But I want you to understand the basics of this. Is that... I see you're looking, you're not really sure.
Yes,
Give me an example.
You want examples?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, of course I'm going to give you examples. But before I give you the examples, I wanted you to understand what's prohibited biblically, what's prohibited rabbinically, and where the rabbi stepped in and said, in one case I'm going to allow it. So the examples would be like this. A bag of potato chips. You have to make sure that when you open up the bag of potato chips, the bag becomes unfunctional after you take out the potato chips. If you're opening up the bag of potato chips and that bag can then be used, means you're tearing it open, and now the bag can be used for anything. It's a beneficial bag for you. So you tore something with a beneficial result. That's a biblical prohibition. The rabbis did not allow you to do that. So what did they allow you to do? When did they allow you to get food out of a bag? In other words, they prohibited even where it's not beneficial, right? Even where you're just destroying a piece of paper for no reason. But they said if you're going to do it that way and you're able to get food, to get the food out of a bag, they allowed you to tear it open, but only if it's going to be such a type of tearing where it's not beneficial. So you have to make sure that the bag that you open is open in such a way where it no longer has any function.
So do you have to remove all the food from the bag? Let's say potato chips. You need to remove
No,
everything,
no,
or
you
you
have
can
to
still keep it?
the whole thing. No, but the bag, once you open up the bag, so we don't open it on the where it's sealed. You give it a tear open. So what could you do with such a bag? That's it. You ruined it. You have to ruin the bag when you open it. Huh?
So, like for example, a box of cereal, right?
I'll talk about cereal in a minute.
Oh,
So if you open the bag and you realize, if you open it the regular way,
Oh, so if you open the regular way, so you have it one. See, the problem you have now is also you made a new opening. You made a new opening. You see, you created a new opening. That's a problem. But if you did it in such a way where you ruined the bag, So you didn't create anything, because the opening that you created is not really opening anything. You just destroyed the bag. So that's why when you open it, you have to do it in such a way where it doesn't have the benefit afterwards. You don't use that bag anymore.
So what happens if you, let's say you forget, and you open it the regular way?
Yeah. You forget. What could you do?
You can't tear it after to destroy it, right? You can't.
No, you shouldn't
Yeah.
then tear it.
Yeah.
Well, once you open it, that's it. You can't make any changes.
You can't make any changes?
Yeah,
What
meaning,
kind
like
of
I said, like
changes?
you said, if you open it the proper way, then you realize it didn't. So can you just go back and?
No, you're not supposed to do that.
That's
no.
what I mean. So once you do it, you can't make any changes.
You shouldn't, no.
Still
So
guilty.
now,
Still guilty.
is there a problem here? No. That's why also when let's say for example, when you open a bottle, so some bottle caps, when you twist open the bottle cap, the whole thing comes off. There's no ring that's left on the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a problem because you didn't do anything. If you didn't really change the cap, you didn't change anything here. So you're just opening, closing, there's no problem. You didn't create anything new. You didn't change the status, you didn't tear. You didn't open up a new opening. You didn't do a makah, a patish, a finer hand. You didn't put the final touches on anything. But if it does detach from the little ring at the bottom, so that now you made the top part a functional. Once again, you changed it. So you put the final touch on that bottle cap. That you're not allowed to do. So what do you have to do in order to open up a bottle cap that has such a thing? Puncture a hole in the bottle cap first, and then twist it open.
Top of
You're allowed to do that?
Yeah. So that you ruin the bottle cap. So now, even if you open it, it's not functional anymore. So you're not doing anything.
So
You understand?
No, for a bottle of wine that you need, if you need extra wine. So that's what
A bottle of wine.
yeah.
What about a bottle of wine?
For example, you have wine and then you have company and you need another bottle of wine. And then when you open it, again, the piece stays on the bottom.
No, wine and the...
It does.
Wine? I don't think
I
so.
don't.
And it stays on there?
Just
Rashi,
rush.
no?
Yeah, it's a little
I
bit.
know
Think
the grape
by
juice
by
does.
Coke bottle, by
Coke
soda
bottle,
bottles.
I know
They
the
have
The
that.
one that's...
I know the grape juice does also.
So those are potential problems. You have to make sure to make a little tiny
Or
little.
open it before Shabbos.
Oh, it's best to open all these things before
Yeah,
Shabbos.
but that's
No
it.
question.
You
about it.
forget for 1 year.
But if you forget, I'm talking about if you forget to open these things before Shabbos.
I know you can put the hole in it.
Now you have to also be careful that when you open up anything, you're not tearing letters. You're not ruining, because then you're getting into a whole different area of prohibition, which is meichik, erasing.
But what if there are letters on the inside of the cap that you don't know about, and you punch a hole in it, and you ruin the letters on the cap?
I don't know. If you tiny little hole, do it on the side. I don't know. Are there usually letters in the inside of the
sometimes.
cap?
Inside?
On the inside of the cap, then, yeah,
It's like win a prize.
whatever.
That's all days.
What would you use to poke a hole in it?
Oh,
Okay, then, because you don't know that there's letters there, that's not a problem. Because again, we learned last week that in
That's it.
psikresha, that if you know for sure that there's letters, then you're doing it, even though you didn't intend to do it, but it's happening automatically, you're not allowed to do it. But it's not for sure happening. It's not a problem. You understand? Therefore, it's best to open everything before Shabbos. If you didn't open it before Shabbos, like this. For example, milk cartons. Milk cartons that you have to tear, so you're not allowed to open a milk carton just like that, in the regular way, because it's creating a new opening, and you're also tearing. And so it's in a beneficial way. And it's not ruining the carton. You're not ruining the carton. So you're tearing with a beneficial, the end result is benefit. It's a benefit to you, and you're not ruining it. So that's a biblical prohibition. That's a real problem. What you could do is, you can cut open you can cut it open, the milk carton, not open it in the regular way, but just cut it, where it comes up on top. That little. Yeah, so you just cut that out, and then it's all just open, and it's ruined. So you did nothing wrong at that point. Or you can puncture a hole in the bottom and then open it up, and then in a way where you're not tearing, No, then you can, for example, if you make a hole in the bottle, right? So then even if you tear it or you open it, there's nothing you can do with that bottle anymore, right? So what you do is then you open it up and pour it into another bottle, and you have your milk. It's just a method of doing it, so that you don't have the problem. But the other way is just cut open the top, and that's it. That's the easiest way. Huh?
It's not destroying on Shabbat.
You're allowed to tear it in the way of destroying
Yeah.
in order to get food. Tearing with destroying without a bender, without getting food, you're not allowed to. The rabbis prohibited that, but they permitted it where you have to get food. So you have to make sure that what you're tearing open is not done in such a way where you're ruining it. You warm? It is a little warm. So you got that? I think it's clear. Cereal box, it would be the same thing. You're only allowed to open the box if you're ruining the box in the process. Opening potato chip bag again, you have to do it in such a way where you ruin the bag. How do you, by the way, when it comes to cereal boxes, just to rip open the cereal box where it's sealed, that's going to be a very serious prohibition. You're not allowed to do that.
Oy vey.
Why?
So, how many times I did that?
Yeah, they're not allowed to do that. They're not allowed to do that. You have to do it in such a way where you ruin the box. You rip off the whole top. You can't open it in the regular way.
Yeah, but then you have then the cereal is inside a bag, which
It's in
is
the bag,
sealed.
so then you can start that. You're allowed to open it or not. That's not a problem. Like you're allowed to open any bag with food is in it. You have to make it where it gets room.
You can't rip the flaps off, you have
No.
to peel the whole top.
Yeah. Those cereal boxes, you really should open them before Shabbos.
And then the bag with the cereal in it.
Bag of the cereal is less of a problem.
You have to ruin that like a tin bag?
Yeah, yeah.
Oy vey.
Well, if that's easy. You just tear it.
Oh, I know, you gotta figure out where to go.
Make it where it's not functional anymore, where you're ruining it.
I know.
Best answer to all of this is to open these things. These things you really should open before Shabbos. Because with that you're running into real problem. Milk cartons, I also suggest you open them. If it's such the type, those types of milk cartons. Today you go into these things and there's nothing, with the new milk cartons, there's plastic. You turn open it's just a cover, it's like a cap.
Yeah, but usually it cuts off. It's like the bottle of sodas,
Yeah, my-
No.
It does.
The one that I have.
It's
you know,
sealed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a cap and it
It's a cap.
separates.
Well,
Yeah.
the same way as Coke, same
Yeah.
thing. It's just a
That's
seal.
It's got the red cap on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Either milk that I get, either it's got the thing that you peel off,
That's
or
right.
the one you,
So you should open them before Shabbos. So that's-
if you remember. Not no milk for you.
That's why you have the list is getting longer on the refrigerator.
Same thing as with wrappers, wafers. You're opening up wafers. You open in such a way where it ruins it anyway, so it's not a problem. What about protective seals, things that have like a yogurt, where you have to, a yogurt thing, you have to pull open a protective seal, or wine, some of these fancier wines, you have on top of the cork, you have like most wines have on top of the cork, you have like
Like a wrap.
a wrap, yeah. So that, you're allowed to do it if it's the tears, it ruins it, and there's no letters. You have to be careful with those things. So if it is, it could be letters. That's always a problem. Stays. Any questions about this?
So how many lashes do we get for?
Wait.
No,
You didn't know?
Now you know.
that's why we wanted the class.
That's right.
Opening up cans. A Could also be a problem because you're creating a new opening and the can is now a functional can. What you should do is open up half the can and then get rid of all the food. Pour out the food out of the can, and that's it. So the can with the half is, you didn't really do anything.
Maybe.
You didn't
Well,
create
they
a
you
real
open it from the bottom a little bit, like a,
can.
yeah.
How are you going to open a can from the bottom?
Yeah, those
Puncture a
can
hole.
openers, like, yeah, they puncture like a triangle shape thing in the bottom.
I don't know. I'm not
Yeah.
familiar with this.
Yeah.
Like tuna can. What kind of can are you referring to? Where do you have this? Well, how do you make the hole in the bottom? With what?
There's some.
It's a can opener, but it's the kind of can opener that has the shape
Oh,
is like a
that.
triangle.
Oh,
Yeah.
that.
That's, yeah.
Oh, so you just puncture that. That's what they say. That's what you do.
That's what I heard, I don't know.
Yeah, it makes sense. So you can't use the can afterwards.
Right.
Well,
Okay,
you
that
can
makes
have
sense.
it open up, like the flop.
That's a problem because you're opening up a can. Now you
Yeah,
suddenly
but if you
have.
take the whole top off,
It's a problem because you just created a new vessel. The can is now a can, a new opening. So you should open it halfway. That's what I saw. But if you can make a hole in the bottom somehow, that's a better way. Yeah, that's definitely what helps.
Yeah.
Can you make a series of holes so you can peel half the can open?
Why do you make it? Why do you need to make a
open
series
around
of
the-
holes?
Because if you say to,
No, he's talking about a hole on the bottom.
on the bottom, but say it's not a liquid, it's a solid in the can. So you open up the can, we use that opener, and you open up a series of holes. And then
You're not allowed to open a can with a can opener. That goes without saying. You can't. You're talking about pulling on opener. If you don't have
No,
those,
he's talking about one of those can openers that you put with the
I know, but he's just talking about puncturing one hole on the
okay,
bottom.
that's
That's
what
it.
I'm
That's what
referring
he's
to.
talking about.
Right, yeah.
So he's talking about puncturing a hole in the bottom, and then on the top, pulling off the
If
top
there wasn't a
part.
pull-off lid, there's no way to,
What?
if you didn't have a pull-off lid, in the days when they didn't have pull-off lids, you couldn't.
That's a problem. You can't open a
There's no
can
way
with a
to
can
open it.
opener.
it's
No,
mechanical.
Not
you
with
can't
some-
open a can opener.
Yeah.
Now, another area that's important to note is regarding tying. For example, how do you close your garbage bag on Shabbos when you fill up a garbage bag in your garbage can? You tie it and you throw it into the big bin out in your garage, right? How do you tie it?
Make like a knot, I guess.
You're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to make a knot on Shabbos. You're not allowed to open a knot on Shabbos. So when it comes to tying garbage bags, you have to be very careful not to violate Shabbos. The best way to do that is to make one knot, one tie, which doesn't really close it well, but at least you can, it closes it up.
Not
And you put,
completely, just one side, like
no, how do you close it?
you take it both sides.
Two sides, and you make, and
Right.
then another one. You make two knots.
Oh, okay.
You're not allowed to make two.
So by one you can.
One is not a knot. One is nothing. What is
Oh.
one?
Okay.
One doesn't really close it, right? You know what I'm talking about?
No, if I do one and I do tight, it closes.
But
I mean,
it's
it's
going to
not-
open right away. That's not a real knot. That's not a knot, right? That's not a knot. A knot is when you double knot, or if you're doing it within itself and you make one knot.
Yeah, you turn it around. You
With you make the knot within itself, not two pieces together. Which two pieces together, you need to make a double knot for it to be a knot. But on one piece itself, you can loop it in itself and make a knot. That's
That's
not
okay?
that's prohibited. No, that's
oh,
not.
okay.
But if you're taking two sides of the bag and tying them together like that one time, that's permitted. So that doesn't create a knot.
That's a new garbage bag.
Like when you close your
You
shoes.
just pull it.
When you close your shoes, right? If you just put the two shoelaces together and you tie them, it would open right away. You have to make a bow after that, right? What do you do after that? You make a niva, you make a bow. So by shoes that's permitted, but by garbage bags that's not. So you just have to make one, tie them together one time, and that's it. And throw it in the garbage can.
So what about the woman that they have a chagura, belt? Are you allowed to knot it or not?
Not one time, yeah, not twice. You're not allowed to make knots on Shabbos.
Open,
What?
or open.
Or open knots. Yeah. You understand what I mean when I say once?
Yeah. Now,
Like
double-
that belt, you take it and you flap it, and you tie it, and
that's it.
one time is not a knot because you can pull it open in a second. Right? You pull it open. That's not a knot.
Well, it closes it, but doesn't lock it.
Doesn't knot it. It doesn't knot it. That's
Right.
not a knot.
So that's also for Yom Tovim or not?
True, of course. Yeah, that's true for Yom Tovim also. Okay, now when it comes to Shabbos, you also have to know another important law, and that is hachana, to prepare for Shabbos to after Shabbos. You're not allowed to do that. Now this is very, very important because a lot of people also mistakenly can violate this law. Let me give you examples of this. Why you're not allowed to do something on Shabbos for Motzei Shabbos for Saturday night? Because you're showing that the Shabbos is not a zilzul. It's like making Shabbos not important. If you're already thinking about after Shabbos, you're starting to prepare for what you're going to do after Shabbos, then you're taking away from the beauty from Shabbos, right? You're not focused on Shabbos. That's a disparagement of the Shabbos. So therefore you're not allowed to do it. So for example, if you ate your third meal, Shabbos is out at 6 o'clock, and you ate your third meal at 5 o'clock. And everyone finishes, let's say at 5:30, you finished eating, and the wife or the mother or the girls or whoever, the boys, they say, let's clean up the table. You're not allowed to clean the table from your third meal. Because why are you cleaning it? Why are you cleaning that table then? You're not using that table again on Shabbos. So you're cleaning it for after Shabbos. Now obviously you don't have to leave a total mess, because people don't like to be in a mess at all. The people don't like a mess. But there's certain things that you're not allowed to do. Once you finish, you're not allowed to wash the dishes. Not allowed to wash the dishes from the third meal, because what are you washing? You're putting it away for Sunday. You're not allowed to do that.
Can you rinse them?
No? Why would you
No,
rinse them?
no.
What would be the
So you
reason?
scrape the food off of it,
For what reason?
and put it in the sink,
For what reason?
so that I don't know, so bugs don't get in there, right?
But you're not allowed to take it from the table. Maybe you're not allowed to take it from the table. Maybe you can take it from the table and put it in the sink because you don't want to have a complete,
Mess.
horrible mess in your house even for a half hour.
Right.
Because that's not for Motzei Shabbos. That could be for Shabbos also, to make the house a little nicer for Shabbos. But you have to be careful with that, because you can be going into areas that you're doing it only for Saturday night, right? So if you have to put it in the sink, I would say that you probably shouldn't really deal with that situation. I don't think it's so private. Do you have a third meal on Shabbos?
I don't think I know.
You have it in shul.
Yeah.
So these are very important. There's a lot of things you're not allowed to do. But what happens if you have food out there from the third meal and you want to put it away so it doesn't ruin? It doesn't get ruined. Milk. If you leave the milk out till Motzei Shabbos, it can become a little. Certain foods could become soggy. You don't want to ruin the food. So in that case, you're allowed to put it away, because you're not doing it for after Shabbos. You don't have to allow your food to ruin. So to do that to the preservation of the food, then you're allowed to put away. You're allowed to put away things for that reason. Understand? Like for example, you're not allowed to take something out of the refrigerator, and put it in the freezer to freeze it. You're not allowed to do that. Why are you doing that? You're not doing it for Shabbos. You're doing it for after Shabbos. You want it frozen. So you have to wait till after Shabbos to take it from the refrigerator to put it in the freezer. I'm just giving you examples where hachana could be a problem. You're not allowed to prepare from Shabbos to after Shabbos. Or if you're having a party Motzei Shabbos, you invited guests for Saturday night. So you start preparing the house on Saturday afternoon, right? Put out a tablecloth, set the table. You're not allowed to do that. Because you're doing on Shabbos for after Shabbos. This is all prohibited things. So, just keep that in mind as well. Very important law. Now we come to another very important subject that is very, very also common in Jewish homes. And that is the law of schita, squeezing. So we learned about schita when it comes to food. But today I want to mention schita as it relates not to food. Like, for example, sponges. Are you allowed to take your sponge and wipe your table on Shabbos? There'd be a big problem with that. You're not allowed to, obviously, because then you're wringing out water from the sponge. Every time you use a sponge, you're squeezing the sponge and water's being squeezed out. That's prohibited. To squeeze out liquid from a fabric is not allowed on Shabbos. Like to take a towel to squeeze it out, a washcloth, squeeze it. You're not allowed to do that. And a lot of times, even if you don't squeeze it, the very fact of you, by using it, you're already squeezing it. So that's a problem. So there's two things that may be a problem when it comes to squeezing. There could be the squeezing because you want to squeeze out the water from the shmata, from the washcloth or sponge or whatever, the towel. Or because you want to wash the towel, you want to clean the towel, so you squeeze out the water so that the towel come out fresh and clean. Either way, of course, this is totally prohibited. That's a very serious prohibition. And therefore the rabbis made a decree that you're not allowed to ever saturate, you're not allowed to put fabric into liquid to make it wet. Because they're afraid that once you be able to soak in wet, you're going to want to squeeze out the water to make that shouldn't be so wet. So you're not allowed to saturate something that is, by nature, you can squeeze it. Like, say, for example, fabric and things like that, where you'll easily by mistake, you'll squeeze it. So they said, don't do that.
You spilled the wine on your table.
Oh, right. So how do you clean?
They came and they spilled the wine.
How do you spill I'll tell you how to do that in a minute.
So are you allowed to put the pre-cut paper towel that
Paper towel you're allowed to, yeah. Because the paper towel you don't squeeze.
Right.
No one goes later and squeezes out paper towel. It's not something you can squeeze, so therefore you're allowed to saturate it. The truth is today in our lives we have, of course, washing machines and all that. So usually people don't squeeze out towels either. So for example, a whole thing of orange juice fell onto your floor, to your tile floor. What do you have to do? Just leave it there? You're not allowed to. So you're allowed to take towels and put it on it, or a big shmata and put it on, because you're not going to squeeze it, because you just throw it into the laundry and finish, and the washing machine will take care of all that. That's not what I'm saying. So it's not a problem. But to use a sponge to clean up a spill of orange juice or a spill of water, that's prohibited completely, or a washcloth or things like that you're not allowed to use at all. Now that brings us to the issue of washing dishes. How do you wash dishes on Shabbos? You're allowed to wash dishes on Shabbos, but you have to be careful how you do it.
No, we don't.
What?
No.
If Friday night, if you don't have, you need to use those dishes for your Shabbos day meal.
If you don't need them, you have,
There's no mitzvah to keep dirty dishes in your sink for 24 hours. You're allowed to put the dishes away. Especially most people, they would probably need the dishes for the next day's meal, so they have to wash the dishes. But there's a way to do it. You're not allowed to wash dishes with Brillo, with those types of things, with washcloth, with sponges. This is absolutely prohibited. You're not allowed to do that because you're going to squeeze the water out. There's no question about it. But there's a rough brush that they have that you can scrub the dishes with a rough brush that doesn't really squeeze anything. There's nothing being squeezed there. That you're allowed to use. They have that specific.
They have a sponge that doesn't retain anything. It's not a sponge. It's like a fiber. It's like plastic fibers twisted together.
Yeah.
So it doesn't. If you squeeze it, nothing comes out.
But what happens to the water that's in it?
It just falls out. It doesn't retain anything. It's all porous. It's completely open.
They say it's made for Shabbos.
I think it's
Okay, that's permitted. That seems.
right. You know what I'm talking about, right, Rachel? Yeah.
That seemingly would not be a problem.
Because that's what we use.
Yeah. So when things spill, it's best to use a big towel, for example, to just put it on there, let it absorb the water, and then you throw it in the garbage, in the, what's it called, in the laundry, and that's it. But in places where they don't have washing machines, today it's not so common anymore, but where you could end up squeezing, so it really depends on the circumstance. Where there is a possibility that people will squeeze it, you're not allowed to saturate it. You're not allowed to use that to clean up the spill. Understood? The same thing, if something dirty spilled, something like soup spilled on the floor, right? So if you take a cloth, you take a clothing or a fabric, you're not going to squeeze that out because you don't want that water. You're just going to throw the whole thing away. So it's not. It's less of a chance that you're going to squeeze it out because you have nothing. There's no benefit to the water, and it won't clean. In other words, why would you squeeze something out? Because it cleans them. It cleans the shmata with which you're squeezing out the water. Cleans it, right? When it's dirty, it's not cleaning it anyway. So what you do with a dirty spill and you soak it up with some shmata and things, you just take that and throw it into the sink or and later you wash it in the washing machine. So over there's less of a chance that you're going to squeeze it. What about when it comes to colored water? Something of a color. So if you wipe it with, so you have to also be careful that you're not causing coloration. Understand? When you start wiping it, you can start causing coloration. So when it comes to napkins and paper towel, there's nothing to worry about. That's what you should use. You should use paper towel and napkins. You just wipe it up. You're not squeezing it. No one squeezes those things anyway. Throw it in the garbage, and that's the end of it.
If you spill wine,
Same thing.
and the paper towel is white,
There's no problem. It's ruining the paper
Right.
towel. It's not good. So for example, if you have a surface that is dusty and dirty, yeah, you want to clean it on Shabbos. So you take a wet washcloth or a wet towel, and you're not allowed to do that because while you're doing that, that alone is squeezing. Or if you have an area where it's wet and you want to wipe it off, and you take a dry cloth. Now the cloth is going to become wet, and while you're doing this, you're going to end up squeezing. So either way, you have to make sure that you use, in those situations, if you have a big spill, you just cover it with a towel and throw it in the sink in the washing machine. Or when it comes to those things where you really want to wipe it off, like a surface, a table, it got wet. So that you should do with paper towels, because that you're not going to squeeze. The point over here is that when you're going to come to squeeze something, you have to be extra careful. You get it? So so for example, this is a very practical thing. Things spill on the table, right? So if you use a dry cloth, so if it's a little bit of, so if it's this amount of water spilled on the table, you take a dry cloth and you wipe that, you're not going to end up squeezing because it's just too little water to have made this dry cloth so wet that you're going to squeeze while you're doing it. But if it's a big area, and you have to now wipe, and then the whole cloth becomes very wet, so you have to measure and see when there's a chance that when you wipe, you're going to be squeezing as you're wiping, and when not. So this is really, you have to. It's a little bit of your own discretion. You have to use your own, your own brains to see your own. You see, to every situation, you have to see if that will cause a problem. Of course, a sponge is always prohibited because a sponge, no matter what you do, you're squeezing a sponge. Any questions regarding this? There's one more thing that I wanted to tell you. Okay. Are you allowed to clean things on Shabbos?
Like what?
A stain,
No.
something got on your shirt, a little bit of
Gravy.
not gray, something fell on your shirt. So you're allowed to get rid of it. You're allowed to, take it off. But to start rubbing the shirt and cleaning it from its stain, you'll end rubbing it with a soft or a damp or wet thing. You're ending up, besides getting rid of what's on there, you're also going to probably clean the shirt. That's prohibited on Shabbos. So these things, of course, you have to be very careful with that. That's if it's fabric. What happens if it's leather, if it's plastic? You're wearing a leather jacket and something got on it. Right? Something spilled on it. Like a little peanut butter got on it. You're allowed to take, so you can wipe it off because you're not doing this. The leather is not fabric. You're allowed to get rid of the substance itself. You're allowed to moisten it and get rid of the schmutz. To scrub off dirt, you're not allowed to on Shabbos, even off leather. But a little bit of a soft rubbing off. You're wiping off, you're allowed to, but scrubbing off, you're not allowed, because then you're cleaning already. Okay, I think we should conclude over here, and we'll continue next week.